Kenobi Episode 5. Wow. So this episode had some incredible fan service here. Some incredible moments. But I want to say this, and I know sometimes this deflates a balloon for some people, but I also do want to acknowledge some issues in this episode at the same time. I wanted to just start that right off on the bat so you guys know, stay tuned for some honest discourse. And, you know, it is objective. And when I say it's objective, I mean without bias, because, you know, I'm kind of very biased to Star Wars. Consensus of this episode. I'm not here to rain on anyone's parade. I am a huge Star Wars fan, and I am dead ass happy about some of the moments we got in this episode. My god. But I don't know if anyone agrees with this. There's going to be people in each camp, but I do feel like a lot of fans, even those who have been critiquing previous episodes of Kenobi, and what I mean by this is that when an episode like this comes out with so much good in it, don't get me wrong, I do feel like it puts a smokescreen over things that I've noticed in this episode that are still just as much of an issue as they were in episode 4, 3, 2, or 1. What I try and aim to be here on this channel, don't think I'm ever coming at this from like, oh, you're just a hater or anything like that. I'm a big fan. I believe what makes a good review is to praise the good, praise the excellent, but also, you know, be real and talk about some issues that I find. And I am opening the floor, as always, in the comment section for you to debate me, you to agree with me, disagree with me, maybe say, oh, Boba, but you didn't take this into account. That's what it's all about. But I'm never gonna just shill a show just because I got some of the stuff I've been waiting like 17, 18 years for. So I just wanted to get that out the way. So, my god, Hayden Christensen, they did it. They did the flashbacks. Now, these were intermittently kind of woven throughout the episode to tell this somewhat larger narrative. Wow. Like, this is what I mean. I'm a huge prequel apologist. Again, shite tons of issues in those movies. From script, writing, this, that, and the other. You know, there's two metrics, usually. Like, there's critical consensus out of 10, and then there's, like, a subjective entertainment. Critical of the prequels can be like, oh my god, like, not so high out of 10, if you know what I mean. But subjective there is solid like 8, 9 for me out of 10. Because I'm subjectively entertained as hell by them. And this, I was subjectively entertained. I'm almost speechless. I can't find the word right now. I love the chemistry Hayden and Ewan have after all these years. One thing I will say is, I do feel like Hayden looked a little bit uncanny. And that's like, I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. He looked like Anakin, 100,000%. I loved it. That I could praise this for the next 20 minutes. You guys know I can talk. But I've said this before. I thought maybe they would do a slight bit of that Disney touch-up, if you know what I mean. Not that I think he's aged bad at all. Hayden Christensen looks incredible for his age. He still looks like Anakin Skywalker. It's just showing him back to the episode 2 Anakin, or even episode 3 where I thought they would go with the longer hair from Revenge of the Sith. I still thought they would do very slight tuning to kind of resemble the younger kind of facial features that he had. It wasn't anything sticking out like really bad. It's not like if they tried to get Mark Hamill to actually act like a Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. No, I'm not going to those extremes. Like, obviously not. But what I will say it induced in me, and this isn't a criticism, by the way, this is just some side note stuff, is that it felt a little bit uncanny. It's like, hey, yeah, you're Anakin from Attack of the Clones. You look the same. But it's something, and again, never expected them to do like a Robert Downey Jr. in the Marvel movies, all the way down to his younger self with his parents. Nothing like that extreme was needed. I just thought it'd be complimentary post-production touch-up. Not a big deal. I love this, and I love that it was serving this narrative that they branched between on and off throughout the episode of them dueling, showcasing, as always, Anakin's overconfidence, his quick-to-rush attitude, his need for victory, his impatience, and showing why Obi-Wan, albeit not as gifted as Anakin, his Padawan at times, would still come out on top. This is where we have the third sister come in. I love the lines. I feel like they nailed Vader's demeanor in moments like this, because a big part to Vader and a lot of things is, well, what he says here. It's a great honor to be invited aboard, Lord Vader. And he's like, I am not interested in civilities. Where is he? It's just like, yeah, I don't care. Just get to it. I don't freaking care. Can we just, you know, this is what I mean. There's so many things in this episode that they got right. So many things that I think Kenobi fans who are wavering on Kenobi's episode so far needed from this episode. Vader says that she's done well, gives her the Grand Inquisitor promotion, if you will, and the badge. And yeah, obviously obviously at this point, we didn't know the little reveal that Vader gave at the end. So they arrive on Jabim. People are really happy that the mission was successful, and we have Haja there. He had nowhere else to go, so he's just chilling in the meantime. We have moments where Obi-Wan is looking at the people and markings of previous Jedi who've come through here. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who translate some of these markings on the walls, some famous Jedi who have still yet to be Easter egged, identified, if you will. Lightsaber hilts, Jedi robes, because we can't forget that Jedi literally went through this space. This is where they find out that the Imperial Destroyer has indeed arrived in orbit, and I love this next line because, you know, as we've already been over, it complements not only the master and apprentice relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and even though it's been 17 years and he's become, you know, what have you become? He's become something else. Obi-Wan knows Anakin Skywalker still. We surrender, he'll kill us all, and Obi-Wan's just like, he'll attack next. He has no patience for a siege. And so we carry on with the flashback. It's so great seeing Hayden. Like, I know, like, obviously not once upon a time people thought this, but I've always felt this. So many of you fans have felt this. Seeing Hayden as the over-aggressive Anakin, just taking that stance in the fight. We have Obi-Wan just, like, kind of getting his ass whooped. But again, because he's more, like, attuned with Jedi ways, whereas Anakin is a little bit more overambitious, wanting to prove himself, coming down smack hard with things. True, he is more gifted in certain ways, but what is his undoing is his overconviction in things. So Obi-Wan here says, you grow too aggressive, Anakin. Be mindful. A Jedi's goal is to defend life, not take it. So Vader says, launch the attack. And so the Stormtrooper squads roll down there with Reva. I like this moment of where we have Kenobi just reassuring people, saying they're going to get out of here. We just need to hold them off long enough to get you out. We'll fight them. We'll survive together. This was kind of needed because we needed him to get from the sullen, somber, you know, really downtrodden, lost hope Obi-Wan at the beginning of this series to the kind of optimistic, kind of old Jedi way Kenobi. Like, this right here was a Jedi. Whereas in episode 1 and 2, it would have been like, no, I'm running away. Like, you guys, good luck. So they are setting that up to be where he is going to be. Around about this time with Reva arriving, this is where some of the issues begin. They start firing on the door. Now, again, as I always say, for some viewers who aren't necessarily as critical of certain things might view these as nitpicks, but for me, things like this, long story short, why they matter in a script and from a writing perspective is because some moments in the plot that continue after moments like this are predicated and are thus predicated off of these moments that can be found to be issues. So for example, you know, like blasting the door and then eventually getting to the point of sabering through it. Of course, various members of the audience may say, oh no, but the blasts weaken the door. But like, as we've seen before, lightsabers can cut through things, so I argue she could have done that quite a bit sooner. Yes, it was after the door got blasted, but to me, it wasn't like, you know, foolproof. I do believe if she wanted to get in there quicker, she could have done the whole Qui-Gon thing, just, you know, melting like slowly through the door. She could have done it. She could have done it, but you know, for plot reasons, they needed to kind of drag that out, you know, a little bit so certain conversations could be had. Now, this next bit is arguably one of the, and call me out here if I am misunderstanding, but I think I understand it pretty clear. So the message from Bail Organa. So assuming here, because they didn't explicitly communicate this, so I'm going off what I got from this episode, and they've had no communication since Tatooine. He's got the message thing, he openly admits, like, I know we said no communication, but your silence worries me. This is where it begins. If he's found you, if he's learned of the children, if I don't hear from you soon, I'll head to Tatooine. Owen will need help with the boy. I pray you're safe, Obi-Wan, both of you. So this means that Bail Organa, you could have told Kenobi that Anakin survived Mustafar. Again, I have no issue with Obi-Wan knowing that Anakin was Vader. He knew that from the holo recordings. He knows that Anakin was dubbed Lord Vader in the holo recording, but it's just the exception to that is that, oh, he thought he was Lord Vader for but 5 minutes because he assumed, like most people would after being delimbed the way he was and burning to a crisp, that he would die. Even Palpatine was like, oh, he's still alive, you know? So he thought Anakin was just Vader, but for a few minutes. Do you know what I mean? Don't you think it would have been handy? He's like, oh, by the way, your former apprentice is alive. Like, and I'm not saying you're going to run into him, but I just thought I would let you know, Obi-Wan. Like, I've come here to Tatooine. And now we're just jumping to the point of where Bail knows. Again, I don't want to come across as if I'm ripping into this. I just find this quite an issue. Because obviously, we had that moment where Reva informs Obi-Wan that, yes, Obi-Wan, Anakin Skywalker is alive. And we have him in that panic attack mode. Bail Organa could have told him. I'm just saying. This is where we finally got some context. I've been waiting and looking forward to this. Like, the context behind Reva. So Reva says, Lord Vader will have you at any cost. And he says, you mean Anakin? You knew who Vader was back on Daiyu. How did you know that? Vader, as we all know, would have kept that hidden. And you're too young to have known him, unless, as we all speculated, she was that youngling in the flashbacks. That was something everyone saw coming, obviously. This is where she was getting really kind of triggered, because obviously a big thing to her, and as we learn, her whole goal and what she feels like she's owed is to strike back at Vader. So Obi-Wan rubbing it in, the night Order 66, you were a youngling, that's how you knew. You saw him, as a lot of us thought. And so this is where we see the flashback, and it was awesome, by the way. I've been hoping, and I kind of hoped we got a little bit more, just in terms of like the robed Anakin with the 501st going in there, cleaning house. But, you know, I'm going to count my blessings here regardless and be like, okay, we see Anakin as Lord Vader, killing Jedi. Not only that, killing younglings. Reva gets into this through saying, you know, we thought he was there to help us. That made me feel really sad, to be honest, because, you know, you see, like, the rumored chosen one come in, right? Like, oh, you know, Anakin, the boss, he's here to help. Blue lightsaber in hand. He's furious looking on his face. Makes sense. He's gonna stop the clones, right? Because he's furious at them for killing the Jedi. Oh. And she says, when he left, I played dead. Hid with the bodies, felt them go cold. She says they were the only family I had, and he slaughtered them. And to be fair, this is some of, like, the acting I have enjoyed from Reva, because her voice was quivering here. She was really, like, trembling at the idea of the family that she lost. But just jumping to much later, because I kind of forgot that, oh yeah, this was revealed quite a bit later, but just to keep it coherent here, when Vader was approaching her later, it kept cutting in between, reliving the very moment of when Reva was kneeling to him, thus also as a youngling, and stabbed through the abdomen, I guess, you know, as a youngling, which makes sense as to why she also a little while ago touched her belt. A couple of times this was seen in the series. I was like, what's with that? And she was like reminiscing of the wound that Anakin Skywalker gave her as a youngling. But guys, I have no idea how Reva survived that. And no, I'm not on about the moment at the end of the episode, because we know dark side users can survive this wound. I'm not actually opposed to that. It's an ability that dark side users have, and it's one of the perks of the dark side that even light side users don't really have as much. Sequels, force healing, but we're going to ignore that. But yeah, like, for the sake of this review, dark side perks versus light side perks, which is why Qui-Gon Jinn died, right? Look at Maul, split in two, still hung on, and well, he had a bit of help, but hell, perfect example, Grand Inquisitor, surviving on hatred, just like Anakin did on Mustafar. But I'm talking about, and look, this isn't nitpicky. This just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, please do tell me if it does make sense somehow. But I'm talking about, how did Reva survive that same wound as a Jedi, a 10-year-old, I assume, or younger, Jedi youngling? She got impaled. A 10-year-old doesn't have much ability in the Force, survives a lightsaber impaling, and then proceeds to play dead. How can you tell me that Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn dies to this, yet a Jedi youngling gets impaled by Anakin Skywalker, survives this, and Qui-Gon Jinn can't? Look, before anyone says, oh yeah, but the Phantom Menace was made back then, and yeah, but still adhere to, like, your own in-universe logic. That's my argument against that. Also, just the very fact that she is a youngling. Fair enough, she can survive grown up later as a Force user, a dark side Force user, with that same wound. She can hang on to hatred. She's obviously going to survive, right? But as a youngling who doesn't have much Force ability, Qui-Gon couldn't even do that. Look, this is just where it's like, okay. But, you know, let's forget about these issues, because we got a lot of Vader swoosh swoosh, albeit admittedly, and I'm fully admitting this, cool stuff this episode. Either way though, getting back to where we were, this is where Kenobi says, you know, you're not serving him, are you? You're hunting him. He says, you know, let me help you. She's like, why would I ever trust you? And at this point, like, fair enough, like, she's not like a Jedi. She is like a dark Jedi. She's a dark Force user. She may be out to hunt Vader, but she's not exactly, you know, a good person. She's gone through twisted things. She's turned into a bit of a twisted person who's just kind of really living for one thing, and that is to exact her vengeance. You know, she still chops off innocent people's hands. She was going to kill Uncle Owen. She was that close away from doing it. She's not a great person, but we at least have some context that she's not exactly with the Empire either. She's just playing a role. At this point, no, I can't exactly deny that I do agree with other people out there and the bigger Star Wars channels on YouTube that this does kind of feel like Reva's story at this point. The dialogue, especially in this episode more than ever, solidifying that. And I do wish that this show would have been more about Kenobi and Vader, because this episode more than ever, it's just like, this kind of is Reva's story. It's just like Obi-Wan, even though he's in it a lot, even more than Vader, more complimentary to that of Reva. You may love that, but for me, it's just like, I guess, you know, now I do get what people are saying there. She really is kind of, you know, the main character in a way. You know, Kenobi's a main character too, but is it really his story? It seems like a central figure of Reva's vengeance story arc to me. Kenobi executes an amazing force push back. All the stormtrooper squads go in. Things are going ham. This was like a really fun part to the episode. Trilla gets predictably shot. She lasted longer than what I thought she did. And this moment, you know, I did get really caught up. Like, I felt like they executed this in a very sad way. Trilla was like the only one left, so she must have known she was kamikazing, because she was like the only one there when all the stormtroopers were coming at her, but thus obviously making it a sacrifice to buy people some more time. I did think, like with the thermal detonator, you could have just like tossed it a little bit further and that could have, you know, got a little bit more damage from Reva, but either way, you know, I get what they were going for, like hold it, you know, die. You know, I was very sad. I did tear up, like wholeheartedly admit that. It was a good moment. Loved the strings and the score in this moment, even though Kenobi's score hasn't exactly been what we've wanted it to be. Again, more demonstrations of the amazing flashbacks. More of this, please. I love it. I love it. There's no way out mastered, you know, just constantly breaking Obi-Wan's defense. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, paralleling the actual Vader duel. They were very obviously mirroring up this shot that you're seeing on screen right now. Kind of like how Luke broke Vader's defense in episode 6, but as Vader did with Kenobi with one hand, breaking it when Kenobi was just barely on the floor. So this next bit, I have to admit, I was like, really? Like, again, at this point, I thought maybe we were going to get the duel, and I started putting it together. So, oh, you know, he's disarmed in the duel with Anakin flashback style. So here he gives Haja not only his communicator and his blaster, but his lightsaber. But why give him your lightsaber? And I know he was saying there are other ways to fight, but no, like, no, like, that lightsaber would have only been useful to you. Like, even with the flashbacks and what they were trying to compare there, he still disarmed Vader. And again, I thought maybe they were going to duel and he was going to do their thing, as we detailed earlier, but that didn't even happen. So I don't really get the point of that. This moment, obviously, like, you know, he pitched it to her when he was arrested there in cuffs, like, you know, let's work together. And it's like, how do you know he won't see it coming? So yeah, she deliberately sent him in there with like a tiny little squad that she knew he could handle. And you have to assume as well, she was fine with Obi-Wan getting away with that small squad because she didn't want Vader to kill all those people, and she knew that Kenobi could facilitate their escape and not repeat the past, kind of with, you know, Anakin slaughtering her friend. She basically let Kenobi get away so he could help those people get away. But I still don't get why he gave his lightsaber away. Maybe they were trying to draw a parallel to the duel where he was disarmed by Anakin and he still ended up winning, but like, it's still, like, logically is a stupid decision to me. You may hate me saying that, but like, if you were like in that situation, you would be like, why are you doing that? Hey, I'm gonna go up against a zombie and I have a pistol, but take the pistol. There are other ways to fight. I just feel like they were trying to like do something big and grand, like, oh yeah, this is sick when they were writing it, but it didn't really amount to much. The lightsaber being given away to Haja or not, like, it didn't really make a difference. I'm telling you though, it would have made a difference if they did start dueling, or like Vader was face to face with him and this was the second duel we were expecting and he had no lightsaber. Kenobi gets away from the little guard that was watching over him, and this next bit was epic. We have been waiting for a Force Unleashed moment like this in live action. And my God, this was amazing. Like, he literally stops the ship. This is what Vader fans and Star Wars fans have been wanting to see. No one can deny how badass this is. Bringing down a ship. Full thrusters trying to get away. No, bitch, you're staying there. And then they add more layers to it, tearing off pieces of the ship. There wasn't even a door. He just split it and started tearing it off. But then you see the ship behind, get away. Now, what I would have liked is if that ship tried to, like, get away as he was tearing the doors off, because I feel like the way they kind of edited it, like, they waited for Vader to see it through the kind of cracks that he teared open, and then it, like, takes off. I think that's too risky, because he could have tried to have stopped it again. I feel like if they were flying away as he was tearing it off, he's already preoccupied, right, using the Force. So I feel like that would have been a bit more easy for me to believe, because in this moment, I did feel as though, like, oh, Vader tore all that off, and he sees it the whole time when it's stationary, parked. And then it flies away. So he's seeing it and he's like looking up as it gets away. So it can be argued that kind of once again, because it was written on the piece of paper, that he let them get away. Now I know people are going to say, look, he just expelled his force meter. Like video game logic, basically, you know, stamina bar, force bar. He just like, you know, stopped it there. Like the stamina bar's going down, the force bar's going down. Then he tore that off. So like he needed to wait, kind of like in a video game, as I said, for it to rebuild, naturally rebuild, you know, like refill the meter, right? So I think there is enough leeway here where some fans will come back to me and say, he just did all that with the Force. So when they were like, hey, bitch, we're getting away, you just fell for our decoy, he couldn't use the same will of Force to bring it back down. I do think there's an argument to be made for how he could have tried, but I will give the benefit of the doubt to this situation, I think, with how he just did all that. So when it's trying to get away again, he didn't attempt to use the Force again because he was depleted. And video game logic-wise, the Force meter needed to rebuild a little bit. And by the time he was fighting Reva and stopping the lightsaber blade and stuff, that's, you know, much less demanding. He's had a bit of time for his video game Force bar to rebuild back up, so that's all right. So it just, the way they edited it, I think, again, they could have had the ship trying to escape whilst he was tearing it apart. Then we cut back to the flashback with Obi-Wan besting his apprentice. He disarms him, calls him a great warrior, but you'll need to prove yourself is your undoing. Until you overcome it, a Padawan you will still be. And he smiles at him, and I kind of liked how in this moment, like, Anakin kind of took the L. Like, he wasn't complaining. He didn't look too angry about it. He was just like, you know what, Obi-Wan, you're kind of right here. I still have some stuff to learn. Could argue there's a parallel between his overconfidence here and his need to prove himself with how he just had Kenobi so much in this episode, still allowed Kenobi to get away, because that's what happened. Vader could have gone down there right from the get-go and tore him to pieces. He waited. He could have torn through that door, done that a lot sooner. He allowed him the opportunity to escape, so that's probably what they were going for with, once again, Anakin's need to prove himself, his need to get that victory in a bit of an egotistical way, is what allowed Kenobi to once again win. And so this is where we have Reva trying to make her move. Vader says, you know, he was wise to use you against me. And at this moment, I thought, oh man, like, he's pissed that Obi-Wan just got away, so he is gonna have fun now. He doesn't even want to use his lightsaber in this moment because it's embarrassing to him. Like, I'm not even gonna grace you with a lightsaber duel with me right now, that is. He did in a few moments. I'm just gonna play with you. And his ease of using the Force to block her blades, dodge, just shows the prowess and expertise of just Vader. I loved this, personally. He was like a dog playing with his chew toy. This was fantastic. He was like savoring this because he must have been so angry at Obi-Wan getting away that it did get to the point where it's like, look, fine, I'm gonna take your blade, divide it, and let's both have a bit of a duel. I'm not even going to, again, use my lightsaber because you don't deserve, you're not a worthy opponent for me to actually pull my own Vader lightsaber out. As we kind of spoke about earlier, it kept flashing back between Order 66, where very clearly Anakin Skywalker, Lord Vader actually at that time, impaled her, obviously thought she was dead, fair enough, and so in this moment, because he remembers her, impales her in the exact same spot, and that's where my issue comes in with how the hell does a youngling survive that but not a Jedi Master survive that. By the way, I have no problem right now with Reva surviving this, as I said, because she's much older. God, compared to that of a youngling's age, again, I don't know how she survived that at youngling's age, but now more than ever, you're a dark side user, you just failed your attempt at vengeance. God, just like the Grand Inquisitor, your revenge is going to fuel your hatred as well to survive. Fine. But here's where a new issue comes in, and I think there might be a bit of debate about this. So Vader says, did you really believe I did not see it, youngling? So this means that he's known that Reva, ever since she's become an Inquisitor, was that youngling who survived Order 66. Like, he's always known that. Like, did you really think I did not see it? And that's what he says, comma, youngling. He's known. Vader has known. This is badass in a way because it's like he's always known, and it's like he's been waiting for a way to use her. He's reserved her this whole time. But what this also confirms in an equal sign is that he knew that there was somebody else who knew his true identity of Anakin Skywalker, right? Now, the reason why this makes me uncomfortable, and I can't fully invest in a slam down criticism, is because that is an uncharacteristic thing of Vader to do, right? think we need to acknowledge that. Everyone, again, I've been watching some other big Star Wars YouTubers have their take, and they have said themselves as well, even without quoting them, every fan should notice, if you're a big Vader fan, he takes and strips down, slaughters anyone he knows who would know his true identity. Now, this is where you might come in to defend it, saying, yeah, but he was waiting to use it. But I feel like it's a bit of a hard sell there, because I do think that wouldn't really concern Vader. He lost his ability to see the future, so you're telling me he allowed Reva to know his Anakin Skywalker identity, all for the sake of somehow knowing that she would bring Obi-Wan to him. He still had a boatload of Inquisitors. He had the Grand Inquisitor. Why would he know, or how could he know, that Reva, knowing his identity, would somehow result in Obi-Wan being brought to him? He couldn't have known that. So, look, do you see what I'm trying to say here? Like, I don't think it fits. I know that how the show is trying to make it work, and how it narratively fits here, and hold it, hey, bitch, like, I knew this whole time, and, like, you know, I used you to, like, do this, but if you, like, peel back that wallpaper layer and see the plaster underneath and what it's made of, it still doesn't add up fully to me. I just think, in my opinion, it's uncharacteristic of Darth Vader to allow his identity to be in the hands of anyone. The thing is, Reva could have told anyone. Now, I'm not saying she did, but she could have, and this is the knowledge Vader had. He doesn't monitor every little millisecond of her life. Sure, you might come and say, but Boba, come on, like, he keeps an eye on his Inquisitors. Look, he doesn't monitor every millisecond when she's getting a glass of water, to this, to that, to the other. So do you see what I mean? The fact he could even feel uncomfortable knowing he couldn't even do that would mean that he can't guarantee that his Anakin Skywalker identity couldn't get out there, especially for someone who wants him dead. He's known she was a youngling. He suspected what her grand goal was this whole time. Did you really think I would not see it, youngling? So do you see what I mean? It really doesn't, I think, in my opinion, no matter what the show is going for here, I get what they're trying to do, it doesn't fit within the character of Vader to let that have happened. It doesn't explain how he knew it would all lead to this. He's smart. He could have reserved her for something. I can maybe get to that point, because I know people are going to be like, yeah, but Vader was reserving her to use her. He knew, yeah, he knew she was the youngling the whole time, and he knew that she probably wanted him dead. And yeah, he knew that she knew he was Anakin Skywalker, but it was all in an effort to get Obi-Wan to him. Sure, you just, like, did, like, a math kind of thing there, where it's like 7 + 8 equals something, but you didn't give me the answer to that. You just proposed the formula, like, Vader knew this, Vader knew that, Vader knew that she knew his identity, all in an effort, but how did he know that, like, it would result in Obi-Wan? How did, like, it doesn't add up, and it's too much of a risk, in my opinion, for the character of Darth Vader to have allowed, for years, by the way, she's been an Inquisitor for many years, at any point, for her to do whatever, wherever. Why would he allow any opportunity? He wouldn't, and I kind of stand by that. Feel free to disagree with me, though, but I'm not excusing how badass these scenes were. I just don't really agree with that. Okay, and so this is where the Grand Inquisitor came in, and we knew this was going to happen. So the Grand Inquisitor returns. Hello, third sister. Revenge does wonders for the will to live, don't you think? Takes the badge back and says, we will leave you where we found you, in the gutter where we belong, and Vader proceeds to turn around. So does Grand Inquisitor. She's impaled. They think, I guess, you know, she's going to die. Just kill her. Just kill her, you may say, in defense of this. Oh, you know, they thought she was going to die. Look, this isn't the same thing as Kenobi assuming Anakin was dying on Mustafar or was going to die. That's pretty, I think anyone would agree that Kenobi isn't to be blamed there. Pretty obvious he was going to die. But here, have they not learned? Even the Grand Inquisitor, by the way, even if Vader has so much cockiness and like, I don't even care if she lives, the Grand Inquisitor would want Reva dead after what she did. Has he not learned, or have they not learned, that revenge does wonders for the will to live? So yes, I'm sorry, did not like that, because they literally say revenge does wonders for the will to live. Sith survive. Oh, by the way, she survived this same injury in the same location when she was a frickin' youngling as a Jedi, which, again, make that make sense. And now you're saying that and flexing that revenge does will for the wonders to survive. You walk away leaving her breathing, and don't expect her to come back. I'm not going to talk about this one. She spots the communicator in the distance. Obi-Wan's feeling something on board where the hyperdrive isn't working, by the way. Why isn't the Star Destroyer tractor beaming them or just something at this point? Maybe that does happen. Maybe that leads to the duel in the next episode. I don't know. Anyway, back to communicator. Because of the little freaking hollow voicemail left by Bail Organa, Bail says, you know, if he learned of the children, Tatooine, the boy. And so then it pans in on Luke Skywalker sleeping in bed. So Reva is probably now thinking like, hey, I'm going to take away something from Vader that I had taken away from me. family. They were like a family to me, she said. Even though Vader doesn't know about his family, I guess the goal is like, hey, by the way, you don't know this, but you know Padme and you, back in the day, you had kids. And obviously that would hit Vader no matter what, even if you just learned of it, especially 10 years after. So I guess the plan is to announce that to him and be like, hey, you know, with the lightsaber. That's the episode. I thought there were so many cool moments in it, but I still don't feel like just as much criticism that fans were understandably giving to previous episodes. I don't think this episode is immune to that, just because there was cool things in it. So let me know what you think there after hearing all that. You might be annoyed at me if you've even got to this point, because sometimes people do feel like that if they feel like someone is ripping unjustly on something, but I've still said all of this in good faith. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I'm now wondering, is there even going to be a duel? Since episode 6 will be comprised of now Kenobi needs to get back to Luke and stop whatever Reva's got to be trying to do. But what about the whole, when I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. I think everyone reviewing this unanimously agreed that Vader needed to be bested again to make that line relevant. So maybe there is still a duel. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I've been speaking for a lot of time. I kind of wanted to make this more of a podcasty one and discussion because I felt like there was a lot to say about this episode, because already people are saying great things about it and a lot of things to say with those great things, but I wanted to give a fair trade on both sides. Let me know everything you have to say. Let me know your theories for episode 6. Really appreciate a like on this video if you did enjoy it. Do subscribe if you want to stay up to date with more videos on this channel. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you come back to the channel next week for episode 6. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.